For some big relief for cash-strapped Pakistan, the International Monetary Fund has formally approved a $3 billion package for the struggling South Asian country. As a first step, the IMF will be sending $1.2 billion to stabilize the economy. The rest of the package will be disbursed in a staggered manner. While an agreement was reached last month, a formal IMF board approval was required before the fund could be released to Pakistan. Reacting to the formal approval by the IMF, Pakistan PM Shehbaz Sharif said that the package will bolster Pakistan's economic position to overcome immediate to mid-term economic challenges. He also added that the deal was achieved against, quote-unquote, the heaviest of odds and against seemingly impossible deadline. The IMF package is a shot in the arm for the Pakistani economy. Pakistan has been on a cusp of a default for many months now. The country is facing an acute balance of payments crisis. At one point in 2023, Pakistan just had forex reserves to cover 1 month of imports. The IMF bailout comes just months ahead of a national election this year. The government has been implementing painful fiscal measures to satisfy the IMF, including raising the interest rate to a record high of 22%. However, ordinary Pakistanis continue to struggle with high inflation and a growing tax burden. Now, for an on-ground report on this, we are joined by our Pakistan Bureau Chief, Anas Malik. Anas, $3 billion from the IMF finally coming through in these trying times for the country. One cannot help but ask you, what does this mean for the ruling government ahead of the elections? Do you think this will work out favorably for them?
Well, it's definitely a shot in the arm for the incumbent government, something to bolster about to the incumbent Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif as he steps down from the office in less than a month's time, in precisely in 29 days from now, and he would want to take credit for as someone who left the economy at a considerably much more stable position. The $3.2 billion has been approved by the IMF board in its meeting. It will be compartmentalized or segmentized in 3 tranches. The first tranche will be of $1.2 billion that we're expecting sometime just after the elections are called or the government steps down. Then the second tranche will be sometime in October or in November or December, and the third tranche will be in February. All these three tranches are subject to review, a quarterly review. That's what we have been told and what we understand. But largely speaking, given the depleted condition of the Pakistani economy, it's something to support. Because we've seen with the IMF agreement yesterday, UAE deposited $1 billion in Pakistan's current account. Day before that, we saw that Saudi Arabia had deposited about $2 billion as well. So largely speaking, this would go and be seen as an effort to stabilize the economic condition of the country as it battles and one of the worst economic crises that the country has ever seen since its independence.
Right, you do mention that this will be some sort of support to the current situation. But given the IMF guidelines attached to this loan does come with a lot of conditionalities. For example, increased interest rates, more taxes levied on the common man. In the wake of all of that, how is the common man in Pakistan expected to see this development? The common man who is already suffering from high inflation and price hikes, like you said, in essential commodities.
Well, we're looking at scattering and quite a lot of inflation levels being raised up. Largely speaking, once the money from the IMF starts to flow in, we've already seen a mini budget of sorts or a supplementary bill being introduced to match up the tax rate as it has been committed with the IMF, and then the IMF team went on to meet the other political parties, the other stakeholders, as they say, in order to ensure continued continuity of policy as and when the new government comes in. So broadly speaking, we're looking at staggering levels of inflation, highest that the country has ever seen in the next 9 months, over the period of which this SB or the standby agreement will be implemented. With that, we're looking at raise in electricity prices by about between 4 Pakistani rupees to about 8 Pakistani rupees per unit. So largely speaking, or broadly speaking, the impact or the hit would directly be on the salaried and the middle class, which has been critiqued by political parties and in fact the salaried class itself, because remember, one of the key areas that are yet to be taxed is agriculture. Pakistan's agriculture GDP is about 20%, but the taxation on it is just about 3 billion Pakistani rupees. So broadly, the tax that comes through is from the salaried and the middle class, for which we've been seeing that there has been an active campaign to serve as a wake-up call to the government, so that the essential commodities and such sectors like the agriculture and real estate can be taxed, so that there can be more and more tax collection and lesser burden on the middle class. Isha?
Right, you put that very well. So if I were to ask you, how does this affect the overall economy of the country? What would you say? You say the middle class will be instrumental in this. What do you have to say about the overall economic outlook after this?
Well, it's a bit too early to say on the overall economic outlook of the country, because Pakistan is a country that has been heavily dependent on its allies, even when it comes to the monetary bit. So we're yet to see what the Chinese side would have to pour in this. We've already seen a rollover from the Chinese side, but broadly speaking, or largely speaking, in the bigger picture, the bigger worry for Islamabad is to arrange and ensure that it is capable of paying not one, not two, but $26 billion up until next year, July. So up until the 31st of July 2024, Islamabad has to pay back $26 billion US. And at this point of time, that is the only worry and that is the only goal that they're striving to achieve, to ensure that the cash flow comes in and that the country does not have to go through what it has been going through for over the past 1 year, since Imran Khan, the former Prime Minister, had violated the IMF agreement by introducing these subsidies and capping the prices of electricity and petroleum prices in a bid to ensure his political capital ahead of that much speculated vote of no confidence, which later happened and led to the ouster of Imran Khan from office as well. Isha?
Thank you so much, Anas, for your insightful inputs on that.